He should be. I saw him kind of lurking earlier on the Twitchers. Tweeters.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and it's time for our weekend Comics Aficionados stream. We're going to be talking about a lot of the new announcements Marvel just made as far as some of the new series relaunches, and I believe there's an event coming out right now. First off, I want to introduce Dan Shahin to the channel. He's a comic book YouTuber. He's worked in comic shops his whole life. He actually owned a store for a while. He's got his own comic news YouTube channel. Definitely check him out. There's a link in the description to his channel. Check him out. How you doing, Dan?
Doing great. Thanks for inviting me, Wes.
Oh, I appreciate you coming on. I really appreciate it. Also, we got two of our regulars. We got Doc. We got Pele. How you guys doing?
Spectacular.
Good morning. It's beautiful morning. Beautiful morning in the valley.
Nice. Perfect, fellas. All right. So I guess we'll talk about Infinite Destinies first. I guess the saga of the Infinity Stones is not left. What has there been, like 9 events so far? Now we got Infinite Destinies. The Infinity Stones are no longer just stones. They're sentient beings. They're in charge of their own destiny, and they're finding their own host here on Earth, and they're going to team up or maybe fight some of our heroes in the Avengers and a few other titles. Dan, what did you think about the Infinite Destinies premise and the way they're rolling that series out?
I'll tell you the truth. The Infinity stuff ran out of juice for me back in the kind of like the late 90s. So it really, like, the continuing stringing onto that saga, not the most exciting thing to me. Didn't seem like a top tier event or top tier sort of announcement or series. It seems more like one of those kind of minor, middling sequel type events, that they pump along throughout the year. Doesn't seem terribly exciting, but I hope that they can prove me wrong.
All right, Doc, what did you think? I know you're kind of salty. Are you excited about this?
Oh, honestly, I mean, look, at least this one, they're just doing it across the annuals. It's no different than the Days of Future Present, or the stuff that they used to do back in the 90s and 80s, where they'd have their summer annual events where it was sort of a loose crossover between a bunch of different books annuals, and you could skip it if you wanted to. And I feel like this is kind of a callback to that. And in some ways that's good, in some ways that's kind of pointless, but yeah, it's not too bad.
Infinite marketing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of with Dan though. The infinity stuff. Infinity Gauntlet was great. Infinity War was okay. Infinity Crusade was not that great. And all of the times, and like this weird thing, and then the Infinity Stones kind of became not really a deal. Like, it wasn't a big deal for 10 years, 15 years. Nobody even talked about them until they started doing like the MCU movies, and then they started trying to bring it back out. And then you had
Infinity.
You had Infinity. You had Wolverine and the Infinity Watch. You had there was another one with Thanos and the Infinity Gauntlet. And they just keep doing one like about every other year ever since probably Avengers.
Infinity, the whole Infinity thing is to Marvel as Crisis is to DC.
It's become that way, yeah.
And it's like, this crisis, that crisis, the other crisis. I'm looking forward for the full crossover to where we just have the Infinite Crisis. So Infinity Crisis.
I was going to say they already had Infinite Crisis.
Yeah, right.
It's a new Infinity Crisis. I mean, it's just
the crisis of infinities.
Yeah. It's
well, like they alluded to in Watchmen, right? 2025 in the last Doomsday Clock, he said there's going to be a crisis, and that the Hulk was going to save Superman. Was that the that he teased out in there, something like that? And Thor and the Hulk the Hulk would die saving Superman, something along those lines. And that's Jeff Johns just like wishing and praying that something would change at DC at that point.
Yeah, I think he's trying to wish it into existence.
Exactly.
Well, look what happened with Thor recently. You know, in the Donny Cates Thor. You know, where he actually showed in the first few panels of the issue where the dark winter, or whatever they're calling it right now, where it actually destroys the DC universe, or one of the DC universes, before it reaches 616. So, you know, this people were talking about the whole issue with possibly Disney buying DC, and it could happen. It really, really could happen. As vulnerable as DC is right now, and you know how much Marvel really wants to buy new properties, so it could happen.
There's also the fact that an Infinity thing, to me, if Jim Starlin is not the guy, then it's a knockoff, right? Like the Infinity Quest and Thanos and all of that stuff, Thanos Quest, that's straight Jim Starlin. From the art to the storyline, the characters were invented by him, the concepts and everything. So anything in its wake that isn't heavily, completely like heralded by him is going to be less interesting to me.
Yeah, I think so too. It's not as good. There's not that. Yeah, it just doesn't seem like it has the substance like when he did it. So yeah, I agree there.
Starlin had such impact. Those cosmic characters were so great. I'm still waiting for Dreadstar to come back, or you know, I that's got to be licensed and around the corner after the success of Infinity Stones, and now he's become somewhat of a name. I'm sure. I'm hoping that he's able to get some money from having ownership of Dreadstar and all that stuff for all these years.
I think that there's going to be. I mean, that may be something like, you know, one of the smaller streaming services goes after, but I don't see any of the big studios really being all that interested. That actually might be something that would fit well at, like with CBS All Access.
I don't think it would ever get made necessarily, but you know, like they'll throw some development money at the guy who deserves it, who toiled as like a dude, like a superstar in comics for so long, but just utterly unknown outside of comic book dorks like us.
But isn't that most comic creators?
Yeah, of course.
Even superstars in comics like Claremont, and everybody's like, "What? Who?" You know?
Yeah. You get Frank Miller and like, I guess Bob Kane, like the old comic strip guys used to be like superstars. You know what I mean? Like Chester Gould doing Dick Tracy was like a superstar on the scene.
Yeah, I mean, because let's be honest. You know, people know Peanuts and Calvin and Hobbes more than they. And you know, you say Bill Watterson, and a lot of people are going to know who you're talking about. You say Jim Lee, and they go, "Is that Stan's kid?"
Yeah, right. Even Jim Davis still, like comic strips still, like Jim Davis is probably the last of the superstar cartoonist names. You know what I mean? I can't think of another comic strip guy besides
Scott
Doonesbury. Yeah, Scott. Yeah, Doonesbury maybe, and even he's not full time anymore.
Yeah,
Gary Trudeau.
Have we kind of wandered too far off?
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's fine. We're just here to have a good time. Of course, if you're in the chats and you want to talk about something, absolutely let us know. We're just here to talk about comics, have a good time, talk. You know, try to stay on topic with the Marvel stuff. You know, with the Infinite Destinies, there's also the Super Spy versus Super Spy like side story that's going to be in each one of the issues. You know, Agent Coulson, who's now associated with Mephisto, versus Nick Fury, I guess fake Nick Fury, who's the agent of nothing. It actually kind of sounds more interesting than the other thing. I'd rather just see those two fight, you know? Why does it have to be a side story, Pele?
I don't know. I really don't know.
From a retailer perspective, do you see Infinite Destinies being a big hit, or people are going to be dropping or putting all these annuals on their pull list real soon?
I think that it'll be it'll probably sell about as well as most of the smaller events happen. It's not big money. It's not, it's more like War of the Realms rather than,
No, it's more
Doomsday
Contagion.
Clock.
It's Contagion.
Yeah, more Contagion than Doomsday Clock for sure.
Dude, Contagion was a pretty low seller.
Yeah,
So
it was. Yeah, it was.
When I talked to Real Comic Stacks, who hopefully he'll show up in the chats eventually, he said he's like, this is obviously just a setup event. This is just to get the stones on Earth so Thanos can return and start wiping all these people out and stealing them from. Are you guys down for the follow-up event where it's actually Thanos murdering all these lame new characters?
I'm up for watching Thanos try to stuff people into a glove.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
I just want to see Thanos grabbing people and trying to shove them into the little slot on the glove and getting really angry. It's not working very well. That's what I want.
We'll get to see Thanos possibly smash Safe Space and Snowflake and Trailblazer. That would be interesting.
I'm pretty sure he could just kill them by looking at them. Like, just look at them with a scowl, and they're going to just die. He doesn't even need to hit them.
You just microaggression them.
Yeah.
That's how you do it.
And then they have a heart attack and die.
I can't wait for that storyline.
And then Trailblazer has the heart attack.
Events, I just I want them to deliver on a story. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want a setup where I know there's 3 more miniseries coming and there's 3 more, there's this epic thing. Deliver some action and some satisfying story elements, and then I'll be on board for your sequels. But when your mind's eye is that you're 3 sequels down the road, then I know that not much of import is going to happen in this one. So then I have less excitement about it from the get-go. That's my problem with those types of manufactured multi events.
Yeah.
A lot of what Marvel does nowadays.
It's almost all that they do, and it's very sad. And I was really happy. One thing I've been really happy about from Marvel that they're putting out, very positive. Some of the new Marvel stuff, but they put out so much at the same time. The Marvel's X, I don't care about, but the Marvel anthology book and the one shots that are coming out, the Kurt Busiek ones, all have really interesting creative teams and seem like they have a shot at being really good stories. That's the kind of storytelling I'm more interested in from Marvel than editorially mandated mega events with multiple authors and stuff. I just don't care about that.
Yeah, they tend to take out long Jason Aaron set up War of the Realms to be this big Thor story, maybe his magnus opus, the final, the finale of what he did. They ended up pulling it out of Thor and making it this big line-wide event that was kind of a dud. Same thing with Absolute Carnage, which wasn't a dud. It was it was absolutely a huge seller, but that should have been a kick-ass Venom story arc, and they ended up pulling it out and making it this event that only leads to Noel's arrival. It didn't conclude anything. And I just find all that disappointing.
That's it. I totally agree with that. It's that kind of story. It's a string along. I mean, that's classic of serialized entertainment and comics, right? You want to string them along, but you got to give a satisfying
payoff
experience in each chunk. You know what I mean? That's the one thing from the old days of comics. You could pick up any comic off the shelf, off the spinner rack at 7-Eleven. Even if it was a multi-part story, you could read that story, get a lot of entertainment out of it, and come away with a reasonable understanding of a story happening. That disappeared, decades ago now.
Yeah,
in comics,
a long time ago. Was it my buddy Seek, who I just had on the channel a couple weeks ago? He goes, "They don't write for the trades anymore. These guys are writing for the omnibus.
Yeah,
these are intricate 40-issue story arcs. He's like, they're no longer telling." Even serialized stories. It's just one chapter in a 40-chapter book, and it gets a bit much, Doc.
Agreed. Now, but at the same time, if it was just one chapter in a never-ending book, then it would be like Claremont X-Men back in the day. But when you already have kind of a plan for where it's going to end, you start padding stuff out partway through in the middle just to make sure it fits.
Like Tom King's 100 Batman run.
Yeah, so that
let's do a nightmare scenario for 9 issues.
Yeah,
you're giving these guys a lot of credit, because I think a lot of the time they have no way, they don't even know where the hell they're going with some of this stuff. I mean, I think that would bend us a lot.
I think that's the difference between when a great writer can pull it off, can work on a series for a really long time, it's wonderful. And then a lesser writer sees that and goes, "Oh, I can do 40 issues too." You know what I mean? But it's not the same. I really appreciated Kirkman on Walking Dead looking out and saying, "Man, yeah, I'd love to make it to 300, but I just don't have the story to. I know where my story is ending, and when I'm out of story and I'm not going to pad it out." I respect that. I don't really like the way he sort of dropped it as a surprise on retailers and everybody else, but I respect the decision not to just ride it out to get another trade paperback or another issue on the shelf.
I've got a beef on that, because I'll tell you what, there was so much deception involved in that. I mean, they were billing like issue 195, 196. They're like, "Oh yeah, and this is, and then we're gonna do this, and then this," and they had it all laid out several months in advance. And it's like, I already had orders placed for issues that they knew were never going to be produced.
That's the part I didn't like. That's the part that was willfully deceptive on their part. But it had a reason for it, and it did make it a legitimately scarce under-ordered issue. But that still had enough issues to satisfy the core subscriber base. So I don't know.
It was pretty funny though, because it's like, and then what's funny, when those issues dropped, all the other issues after that just disappeared off the order screens. They were gone. One day they were there, the next day they were gone. It was just like, you guys are bastards.
But at least they only charged us regular price for
that's true.
Basically like a triple sized book.
Yeah, if they had it might have been like the gig, the jig might have been up if they'd had higher priced issues at the, for the last 2. It might have been like, "Oh, hey, something's going on here," but nope, no clue, nothing like that. Here you go. Thanks for all the fish.
Yeah. Well, if it had been Marvel, it would have had a backup section that has all the pages that you just read, but it's the pencil version of the pages with a little caption at the bottom, right? And they'll charge $8 or $9 for the issue, and would have billed the hell out of it, and there would have been 50 covers to it as well. So
yeah, Marvel does a lot of weird stuff. They're not making a lot of friends in the industry right now, but they did make YouTubers really happy, because their announcement of the new Warriors, which we'd already seen the cover, which was ridiculously funny, and Pele and I did an issue or we did an episode of Worst of the Week just talking about the cover and roasting it. But now that we have the details, Pele, it's even better. Like, it's so ridiculous. Like, you can't even. It's too much to believe. It feels like a parody of a parody.
It is a parody. I mean, he's lampooning the social justice movement and thinking that they were going to embrace this with open arms. And it's so hilarious, because the exact opposite is happening. They're pissed. They're mad. They're like, "He's making fun of us. What, he expect us? We're going to go buy this comic after he's making fun of us?" And he's trying to do damage control on the side. It's like, no, I'm trying to speak for you. It's like, yeah, by making fun of us.
And at the same time, all the people that they're quote unquote trying to piss off, how they love to do we're making the right people mad. Yeah. We're just sitting here laughing our balls off at this.
Oh, absolutely. It is just incredible. This is like the best material I could ever hope for. It's just, I mean, you've got the leader of the team who looks like a type 1 diabetic, and she's like sweating bacon grease, and she's got a backpack that looks like she bought at Hot Topic, which is supposed to be some ancient portal, like Shaman from Alpha Flight, it's supposed to be some ancient portal.
It's Fat Dora the Explorer. Come on.
That's
all it is.
it's oh my god.
I feel like it's I flip both ways because I go like, was this just trolling? At first I go, are they just trolling? But then who are they trolling, right? Because like, if you're trolling the the comic skaters or whatever, okay, this is silly. This is obviously like meant to get them up in arms and reacting about this stuff. But then it's really, like you said, it's a parody of the ridiculousness of that ideology expressed to its nth degree. So it's almost like they're making fun of the very group that they're using. So I'm a little bit confused. This is like high level comedy.
Absolutely. It's
Marvel and Inception themselves. I couldn't believe it. It's amazing.
Yeah, right. But are they smart enough to do that, or is it just a completely tone deaf misread on every level of what people want?
Oh no!
I'll tell you,
they fucked up so bad thinking that they were gonna piss us off that we're all just sitting here, that they ended up actually shooting themselves in the foot. That's
They're kind of uniting both sides to say, like, give us some comics that are fun to read, dude. In this situation that we're all in, we want escapism and we want something fun and interesting. This is not it.
Where they screwed up is they should have waited a couple weeks to where the big essential, all the information dropped on April 1st. That's where they screwed up for me. They should have waited and dropped all the pertinent information on April Fool's Day just to really give this that extra oomph. It would have been perfect.
The internet gas, somebody's putting in the comments there, the internet gas. That to me was the one that, like, nobody with a straight face could write that concept and think it was not anything but a parody. Like, that's like a Mad Magazine style parody origin of a character, right? It doesn't make any sense at all. So there's just something just rotten about this whole thing.
Yeah, everybody's like, I don't get the allusion to internet gas. What's he talking about? I'm saying, this is like, and I'm trying to explain that in the old pulp days, they tried to explain everything away as, well, he was exposed to X gas, or he was exposed to, and they're pulling,
remember Cap?
They're pulling from that, and it's like, but it's to a generation that isn't going to understand the reference.
Yes.
Yeah, remember Cap, his super soldier serum was activated by Vita rays.
Right.
What in the chocolate Christ is a Vita ray?
Maybe internet gas will be the new PIM particle, and it'll just be the explanation for everything.
Stan Lee used to use transistors for everything, right? Everything in Iron Man's suit was transistor powered. Because of how tech that sounds.
It's amazing to me that all of this together, they're binding this all together, making allusions to things that this generation has no clue whatsoever. What this nobody out there remembers that's reading comics that isn't like an old schooler remembers the whole reference to Shaman and his little bag that he carried around, from out back in the Alpha Flight days. And nobody remembers that. Nobody knows what he's talking about when he's talking about internet gas. Nobody understands the whole thing with Snowflake and her big brother, from the Wonder Twins back in DC. They don't remember that. They don't know much about the Wonder Twins anyway. So it's like, who is this made for? Really, who is it made for?
Exactly.
It's literally just made for Daniel Kibblesmith.
It's got to be.
It's made to get this controversy stirred. It's made to be on Bleeding Cool and get people taught, like, get a headline, because who's going to buy it and legitimately be excited about that comic?
Correct. We do have a super chat from James Robbins.
Trailblazer.
I've got diabetes on the mind. $9.99 super chat. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. The support really means the world to us. I think it's crazy how so many writers seem tone deaf about what readers want. For example, I want personally just a good story. I don't mind if it uses politics in it or not. but it just needs to be solved. I agree with you. I actually like social commentary. I like comic books that challenge me to think about things, maybe see it from a different light, different perspective. I think that's engaging stuff. That makes you want to read the comic book again and maybe rethink some things. But everything nowadays is just, it is an anvil over the head, just meant to knock you out. They no longer want to challenge you to think. They want to, a lot of times to tell you how to think or try to influence how to think rather than generate conversation and things like that. I know, Doc, do you enjoy social commentary? Do you say no politics ever?
No, I've always enjoyed social commentary, and I've always said that, the best social commentary tells you to think, not what to think. And the creators these days, they don't want to run the risk of you thinking the thing that they don't want you to think, to coming to the conclusion that they don't want to.
You can't have the option.
Yeah, so they remove the option, and that becomes tedious and annoying. And look, I mean, we're all a bunch of adults. How often do we really enjoy being lectured, especially by idiot children that have never had a real job? None of us. We don't like it. I mean, we don't like being lectured by the media. We don't like being lectured by creators. We don't like being lectured by some idiot in Hollywood. Why in the hell would we do it and pay for it?
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because, you think about Watchmen, one of the most revered, generally considered the best comic of all time. And, it's clear from all the statements afterwards that Moore thought Rorschach was a villain. But he gave you the option of seeing things from his perspective, and it turns out that he's the standout character that a lot of people related to in the end. But nowadays there would have been no option. He would have been probably stringing people up on a cross, been doing every dastardly thing in the history of the world, rather than just being shown to be somewhat evil, but giving his reasons for being that way. And it's just not allowed anymore, Pele.
Yep. It's not. And one thing I want to bring up here is that as much as we're lampooning this, and it's absolutely worth just stabbing the hell out of it. I've had a lot of customers that have requested to at least the first issue of this. I don't know if they're just going to mock it, make fun of it, or what they're going to do, but it's like it is such a portrait of this time, and of all the silly little, tyrants and reactionaries on Twitter that, if this was done right, if it was done right as a lampoon, as a way to kind of poke fun at those people, it could be a raging success. But he's not doing it that way. This is real. This is, people are saying, is it going to be real? Is it not going to be real? Is it? No, he's going to pitch this as a serious comic. And that's what's really funny for me.
Well, I think what you're going to end up with is, at this point, honestly, they might even realize how bad it is, and at this point, they're just going for the rubbernecker sales. Like those people that just watch NASCAR for the train wreck or for the car wrecks.
Right.
That's who they're going for, the comic book equivalent of people driving down the road and slowing down to see the car wreck on the other side.
Yeah.
That's the sales that they're going for. Because they can't sell it any other way.
No, it can't. And I'll tell you what, this is such a perfect portrait of present year, current year, comic book industry, that something like this would come out. If there's no other way to describe it, this is what the comic industry has turned into. And there's no bigger warning sign for everybody related to it, everybody associated with it, everybody who reads comics, that it is so seriously wrong right now. So I should bring it on. Let's have the Trailblazer, snowflake, safe space, be negative, whatever shit show, because it can't do anything but but highlight just how sick the comic book industry is.
I mean, I think it shows. I think this concept could be done well, could be done poorly. That's not the point. The character designs, if they are meant to be parodies, that could be funny. It could be done in a way that I would actually enjoy. I just don't feel like the writer or the art team have the chops to pull off something like that, frankly, and pull it off in a way that's going to be entertaining. It's a way that'll grab some headlines and get people talking about, oh, safe space, Snowflake, how cute. But I don't see too much that compels me as just a comics reader to read it. There's nothing. If you're a New Warriors fan, you're going to hate this. If you're an old school New Warriors fan, if you're a modern superhero fan at all, you're most likely not going to be too interested in this. The group that is going to be most interested in the subject matter per se don't seem to be the people that are coming and buying a lot of comics anyway. So,
well, and they also feel like they're being mocked.
Yeah, they are being mocked.
Yeah,
right. So if your goal is to sell more comics, this is just a miss on every single level.
Yeah. Well, do you know who the actual target market is for this?
YouTubers,
10-year-olds.
No, well,
yeah,
I mean,
right.
Yeah. YouTubers that are just going to do like 100% of sales are going to come from like YouTube roast videos, but no, this is exactly the same as The Pride by Joe Glass.
Yeah,
it's literally. I mean, if you wanted to make something that was more stereotypically, like, insensitive, you couldn't do it by choice.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, his main hero's name was Twink, I believe.
Yeah. His every single thing in that book was basically the same thing that they've done in this book. So enjoy those 500 readers that The Pride got.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to make your money back doing it that way at Marvel. Well,
it's Kwanzaa's fans too, I guess. Whatever few fans that Kwanzaa has for his book, the one that he's making with Mark Waid.
No, honestly, I'm sorry, but even Ignited, the teen terrorists of that book that is more competently put together than this abomination.
Yes, this reads like Mad Magazine, right? The concept. It's more like it seems like a parody concept. Now, if it's
like something that Babylon B would come up as a headline.
Yes. But if it's written in a funny way, it could be great. Like, I like a good humor parody. You guys ever read Martial Law?
Yeah.
Okay, right? Parody, especially the later ones. Overtly humorous, making fun of superheroes in every way possible. Yeah. But drawn by an incredibly funny or written by a great writer and drawn by an incredible artist. That is an elevated book. That is a world-class comic book. This is not that.
Honest to God, if Richard Spencer tried to make a comic that made fun of, these people more, he would come up with this exact comic book.
Or it would be more subtle.
It would be. It actually might be.
Yeah, Tabby is saying, wasn't The Boys a dark comedy? Absolutely.
Oh God,
yeah. Oh, very dark. Very dark.
Of course, perfect example. Politics belong in comics. There's not a question about it. If you're a writer and you don't have a strong political point of view that is reflected in your comics somehow, then it's probably not very interesting, at least not to me. You talk about Watchmen, Alan Moore. Dude, Alan Moore could not be more of a liberal left-wing right-wing hater. He hates the ideology of the type of character that Walter Kovacs Rorschach was. Yet Rorschach was a sympathetic hero. In Rorschach's mind, he was a hero. He was the hero because of those same views. And Alan Moore is a masterful writer and is able to walk that edge and play the nuance and give you something that makes you think, right?
Yeah.
Even though we know his opinion, it doesn't, that's not what makes it good or bad. It's the quality of the work. That's what it always is.
Oh,
Yeah.
so somebody in the comments section says that as of right now, the New Warriors YouTube trailer video has 99,000 downvotes. Come on, guys, you're not doing it right. We have to get it over. These are some rookie numbers. Yeah, break that 100K mark on the downvotes. Come on,
we need a link. Throw a link up there for people.
Oh, I'll have to dig it out. Yeah, we'll throw it in just so that everybody can downvote it some more.
Will it actually see print? That's what I'm wondering. After this reaction, will it actually see print?
Yes.
If I could ask a little side note on this, could there be a New Warriors concept right now that really would hit and anybody would care about? Like New Warriors, okay, right, but it's one of the minor league type teams. I just don't see that unless there was a TV adaptation or something like that. I just don't see it ever really having much chance of being a hit in this current market.
You could, if you threw like Donnie Cates and Ryan Stegman on it, yeah, there'd be general interest just because of the creative team, but they'd have to do a good job. But it would be much lower than Thor or Venom or any of the other characters that actually had name recognition. Absolutely.
Well, I think this brings up an interesting topic of where the lines are for certain creative teams and where they're and certain properties. Certain properties are what they are. You can't make a Z-list character into an A-lister. Period. You might bring them up to a C. Hell, it took X-Men like 5 straight years of perfect comic books. Literally nothing has ever been done better than that first 5 years of X-Men under Claremont. Nobody has ever made comics better. And it took them 5 years to go from a C-list canceled book to about on par with, the rest of the A-list. And even then, it still wasn't the book. It took another 10 years to get to becoming the marquee book.
Yeah, it wasn't the top seller, but creatively, it had the buzz for sure during that time, right? Like that was the books.
Yeah, so it took years of perfect comic books. And I'm sorry, no creator out there these days can put together 5 years of literally a perfect comic book.
Of that high a quality for sure.
Yeah,
that's not in the... Yeah,
no, right. There's not the talent to do that these days. Now, maybe somebody comes out of nowhere and manages to do that. Then you could turn a book like New Warriors into, an A-list book or even a B-list book. But it's gonna take years of dedicated and consistent product. It doesn't matter who you could put Jack Kirby and Stan Lee with Jim Lee doing, interlude pencils on a New Warriors book tomorrow, and it's still going to be a C-list title until you get years of consistency behind it. And let's look at, and we can look at creators as well. They stuck Dan Slott on Amazing Spider-Man for 10 years, and it was selling 60,000 copies.
Mm-hmm.
Is that? But you stick him on, Fantastic Four and
Iron Man.
And he's at he's selling 30,000, 35,000. The point is, Dan Slott is a 35,000 selling writer. Doesn't matter what property they're on, unless he's on a property that has a $50,000 or $60,000 floor or 60,000 reader floor, in which case he won't bring them below that, but he's never going to get you anything.
He doesn't elevate the property.
Yes, exactly.
Absolutely agreed.
And
status quo, keep it going.
Yeah, and you can't elevate a creator by putting them on the property, and you can't elevate a property by putting the creator on, just by putting them on it. You need consistency and longevity on it. And none of them have ever been able to do it.
Yeah, it's too bad. This New Warriors thing is just been such a fiasco, and they're getting, you say like, well, they're getting a lot of publicity in places you'd never see before, but no matter whether it's in Breitbart, which is completely negative, or if it's over on like MSNBC, it's all negative no matter where it is. I don't even know if people are offended. Like, well, definitely one side is offended, but everyone.
Oh, they're very offended.
Like, what?
And none of those people read comics. None of those people are going to move the dial one bit on.
Here's one. Here's one comment on Tumblr. As if we don't get enough criticism and attacks already, Marvel goes and pulls this kind of shit. Don't we deserve a break?
No.
And I'm like, this is. It's not going to be good for them once this comes out, because it's just going to paint targets on a lot of these people. Wherever people just throw produce at them nonstop. So
somebody actually challenged CB Cebulski directly. Is like, what is this? And he's like, what? You haven't even read the comic book. It's good, man.
He's on a sugar high or something.
No, he's going through a little bit of withdrawal from not getting as much Chinese food as he normally does.
MSG withdrawal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess.
He's obviously far more interested in the takeout selection of New York right now than the comic book industry.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
Well, he's getting beat up for encouraging people to go mix it up at your local comic book store. Go get in the elevator and go to Midtown Comics and go rub elbows with your favorite comic book fans.
Yeah, exactly.
Probably not the best.
That was ill-conceived on his part. I don't think he realized I don't know how he didn't realize, but I guess he didn't realize what the public sentiment and the temperature was in the room when he put that one out. I read that, I was like, ooh.
It's funny because I have a lot of retailer friends out there, and a lot of them are saying they're going like, man, we were going to try and stay open limited hours, but because there is nothing for people to do, people are coming into our stores and just hanging out, right, and just sitting there and reading, and that we can't have that. It's just not safe for anybody to do that. So like, it's a real double-edged sword right now of what to do about that situation.
We were going to put up a sign that said, please, as much as we love seeing you guys, please limit your stay to 15 minutes or less, to kind of try to cycle people in. They get their books and then they leave. That way you risk, less risk of exposure and stuff. But right now people are at they're so bored. They want something to do. They want to go to their comic book store and they just want to hang out, and just can't do that right now.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation.
My LCS was even last week, they only did curbside.
Yeah, we're doing curbside right now and mail order.
Yeah.
So
when I went in, this past Wednesday, it was only curbside. And so if there was anything on the wall, I had to email them about it ahead of time. And they'd bring my books out. I give them money. They go back inside. That's it.
Perfect. Yep. So Dan, you said you have a lot of retail friends. What are their thoughts on or reaction to Marvel's policy that CB Cebulski said that there's going to be deep discounts on all retailer orders. Not doing returnability or maybe some of the other things that Image, Dynamite, Alterna, some of the other smaller publishers are doing.
Well, Marvel has never been one to embrace returnability. Okay, that's something that they just never walked down that road. That's why the whole final order cutoff system that's in place today is in direct result to a lawsuit that was placed, a class action lawsuit against Marvel by retailers because they were not offering returnability as they were supposed to when books were shipping months and months and years late. Right. So they instituted this FOC that said, look, if you can just adjust your orders, then nothing technically is ever late. So we will never have to return anything. OK.
Right.
Now returns are a thing that in the industry are very controversial. Some people are like, returns are great. Returns. Well, returns usually come at in place of for returns, you get a lower discount, generally speaking. Like in the book trade, they get to return things, but they get them at a significantly lower margin. So, and add to that, the cost of processing and shipping the returns eats in further into that margin. So most comic retailers that I know of anyway tend to err on the side of ordering what they can sell and knowing how much they can order and basing their decisions that way. Now, I honestly think the greatest thing that Marvel could do is exactly what they're doing. Offer extended discounts on the existing product, because that puts money directly into the pocket of the retailer if they can sell that thing and mitigates their risk.
And that's the big problem. Right now, unless they're doing final order cutoff on Tuesday before it comes out, with the rapid level of changing in how everything's going out, that's useless, because they can order today, and if final order cutoff is a month from now, there is no way that anybody can predict anywhere where we're going to be a month. Well,
that's what makes the final order cutoff even more important. I believe the final order cutoff is the single most important innovation in the comics industry in the last 20 years. It is the most important thing. Without it, we might not even still have a comics industry right now. And the retailers do not embrace the final order cutoff enough. They need to be. When I owned my stores,
I'm aggressive with it. I'm
religious about the final order cutoff, because it's the difference some months between making money or losing money is 100% determined by that final order cutoff.
No. I get your point on that, but my point is, if there is no guarantee, unless they move final order cutoff to Tuesday for books that come out Wednesday, there is no way that any retailer a month from now, we cannot predict whether or not that store is even going to be open to sell that product.
Agreed.
And right now, that's what they need to do temporarily.
If they were really serious.
Because
if they were really serious about this, I'll tell you what, they would have offer the deep discount like that and slash the cover prices on the books for the time being.
I think the cover price needs to stay where it's at, because the retailer needs that money. By slashing the discount, the store could choose to pass a discount along to the customers if they wanted to. But in this time where business is going to be constrained, they're going to get less business. They need their profit margin to be larger, and they need that amount of profit per comic that they sell to be larger, just to pay the rent and keep the lights on. So I'm really scared about what could happen to so many shops right now.
Well, if the cover price is less, then the market can shrink less, because more people can still afford.
But
an unnecessary product like. I understand that, but if you make it up in volume, that's literally the whole concept of sales.
The volume is going to go down no matter what.
Volume, but it'll go down less.
But it's not going to go up, so it's still going down. So then you're shrinking the price too.
Okay,
so now my profit is lower. So I'm really scared.
All right. I mean, I'm just saying that more people are less likely to drop unnecessary expenses like comic books when comic books are cheaper.
Yeah, if people, that was my thought on that. That it's like, oh, I can't afford the $4. I can't afford go to the comic shop, spend $30 this week. It's like, well, what if it's $24? What if it's $23? It's like,
So Hugh Carter is also a retailer. He says he's closed entirely. He doesn't care about discounts. He thinks that comics should just be put on hold in the meantime.
Honestly, I'm at the point now where I believe that we need to seriously consider putting literally everything on hold, including, essentially for the next month or two, nothing counts. And by that, I mean, if you don't pay your mortgage for 2 months, you don't lose, you're not just 2 months behind your mortgage. It just restarts again in 2 months.
You mean suspend interest?
Literally,
interest holiday, like tax holiday, something like that.
Well, one of my credit card companies that I work with, that I do a lot of purchasing to take advantage of their, the cash back. They just announced that they announced a 90-day waive on all interest. So that could be the direction that they're going. To kind of have a holiday on everything.
Yeah, but where that starts to unwind is down the chain, where it's like the printer bills and then it goes into like the publishing, and then and then that trickles out into bonds, and then we're talking about widespread potential economic collapse of a scale that's like super scary.
Yeah,
it's really frightening.
Yeah, and I mean, you get down to, okay, well, if you don't have to pay anything, then, but how's the farmer gonna still, get money?
Yeah, there's some businesses you can't pause everything.
Yeah,
right. Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah, you pause at a farm, exactly. Your crops are gonna die, they're gonna rot in the field or whatever, and that's money that's just not coming back.
But I guess
who's going to pay for the produce? It's got to, something has to happen. So
yeah, but I guess my point on this whole Marvel thing is, discounts don't mean jack shit if the stores literally can't sell it and they can't adjust their sales or their orders almost down to the 11th hour.
Yeah, that's the bone of contention there. I think there will be at least 1 month or 2 months of super pain as the market contracts and readjusts to it.
And that's where it's Marvel's job to accept returnability. Otherwise, they don't have retailers left to move their wares to.
At least on a temporary basis, I could see returnability.
It makes sense in the emergency measures to extend it for sure.
Yeah.
So Haley, how long
as long as it's like affidavit, stripped cover, you know what I mean? They can't like mail books back and stuff like that. You've got to be like, they just have to take retailers' word for it, and it's what they call an affidavit return. You just sign that says, hey, I threw these things away. Give me the money back.
Well, they can always go back to the stripping covers thing. That's not a major issue. Okay, you got a bunch of remaindered books sitting out there, and they're just going to get pulped anyway.
What were you going to say, Wes?
So, Bailey, how long does it take to get your money back on a returnable? When you go and let's say Boom makes the #1 issue returnable, and you need to return five comic books, you weren't able to move them. How long does it take you to get that money back from Diamond?
The credit's usually issued within about 7 to 10 days.
It's not even immediate, but I think that they probably should. But here's the thing that we have to understand: there's no right answer here. We're talking about unprecedented measures. We're talking about an unprecedented situation, and we hope and pray everything comes out the best that it can in the end. But we can only hope and pray. There's no guarantees on anything. But let's get back onto the comic book stuff. We don't want to get too much into the real life. We're all dealing with this every day. Marvel had another trailer out, and this one is right up your alley, Doc. Are you excited for the first mutant sidekicks in X-Men history? Doc's not got. Pele, are you excited for Children of the Corn, the first mutant sidekicks in X-Men history?
It's interesting. I think that I won't say that I'm excited, but I think I'm curious. It looks kind of there's a certain I don't know. It's kind of like a New Mutants kind of feel to it. I think as long as it's handled right, it could be really interesting. I'll cautiously optimistic. Let's put it that way.
So I thought that trailer was almost as bad as New Warriors.
But it's not. I don't think anything's worse as bad as New Warriors.
It's right the line.
But
so Dan, what are you excited about Children of the Atom? From the retailers that I've talked to, the people that do the ordering, I've been told nobody's ordering this book. Even the people that have been fully invested in Dawn of X aren't getting that book.
I'm sorry, Wes. I slipped into a coma the minute you mentioned that topic. So like X-Men to me, man, I was so hyped on all the new X stuff. I still am to some degree. But man, they botched a lot. They lost a lot of good faith by putting out too many stupid stories so soon already.
Filler. Like so much filler.
Terrible filler stuff. shipping things 2, 3, 4 times a month, not necessary. If they had put out quality monthly books on all those titles, I might still be reading them all, but I'm reading almost none of them. Because it's proven, one, you don't have to read them all to follow them, which is good. I like that. You shouldn't have to read 100 books to follow a story, but it sure would be nice if a few of them made me interested in wanting to read them, right? Very few of them are at this point.
Yeah, I'm enjoying X-Men. It kind of got on track after like the first 4 issues were boring and bad. X-Force has kind of been good the whole time. Wolverine seems like it's going to be on point, but and the X-Men Fantastic Four series, but man, like
that I like.
Excalibur's
talk about a roller coaster ride on New Mutants, right? Of like, oh my god, the crappiest issue I've maybe read of a Marvel comic in years, and then like, oh wow, Rod Rice, Shiar, I kind of like this issue. It's really, I hate
hit and miss.
Yeah.
Yeah, the New Mutants was all over the place.
You can switch
the same way for me.
You should not switch up writers in between issues. That to me that's not justified.
Yeah,
for me, X-Force is the same way. It's kind of X-Force just kind of goes in and out like that. They'll have a smashing issue, and then it's like, what the hell? What did I just read?
I really like the latest issue, the artwork in the latest issue a lot. That's the thing though. A couple of these X-Men books, they're getting really high quality artists on. That giant sized Jean Grey issue that came out by Dodderman was a thing of beauty. One of the most beautiful comics I've seen in a really long time, particularly out of Marvel. Elegant and simple story, but just like I gave it to my wife to read, and she was able to she doesn't care about comics at all, but was able to appreciate it just for its aesthetic beauty. That's what they need to get back to, is just quality artists and writers. They have hired so many that it's not even C tier, it's Z tier artists and writers right now at Marvel, especially. DC has them outclassed 100% on the creative side, but they just can't seem to pull it together editorially. And Marvel, they have this editorial focus now on X-Men, but you can't hire a Teeny Howard and bring in these kind of artists and expect that people are going to be on board and love it.
Well, Marvel's been doing this thing recently where they pair up a terrible artist and a decent writer, or a good artist with a terrible writer, and think that one of them will sell the book.
Right.
Yeah.
That's a recipe for mediocre comedy or comics, right? That's mediocrity at best is you're going to get out of that.
Yeah. So yeah, somebody was saying, I didn't even see the link. The link to this stream didn't show up in the subscription. I think this stream actually got throttled because New Warriors is in the title, and there's so many roast videos about it. And that video, that trailer from Marvel got downvoted so hard that it's one of those things YouTube does. And the video will be demonetized and all kinds of stuff, even though we didn't really talk anything. So that's definitely happening. Normally we would be well on our way to 100 concurrent viewers. We're at 40, and I appreciate
y'all. It doesn't even show up.
Find us.
It doesn't even show up in my subscription box here. Where the subscriptions are.
Yeah,
I have to actually go to the site. Yeah, I've actually got to go to your channel to get to it. So
yeah, me too.
So I'm pretty sure it's because it says New Warriors in the title, because we don't have any mentions of the current stuff that's going on out in the world. That'll also throttle your shows if you have a YouTube channel. But Doc, we were just talking about the trailer for Children of the Atom. We had a little bit of fun with it. What did you think about that trailer?
There you go.
Yeah, set it on fire. Can we set digital things on fire? If so, we should. No, this is such a waste of paper. Honestly, every single copy of this should be returned just to be turned into the toilet paper that everyone else is trying to get right now. There's this. It's not as pathetically ridiculous as New Warriors was. I mean, you can't try to get that bad. That takes a comedy of errors, but this is still also a comedy of errors, just less so. No, it's a terrible book with a terrible premise that really shouldn't exist. Don't die, brother.
Yeah, right.
No, it's a terrible book with a terrible premise with a terrible writer. What else did we expect out of it? Okay, you got a competent artist on it. Great. Nobody's still gonna care.
Yeah.
None of these. This book is another book where you sit there and you wonder why. What is the target audience for this? Who wants this? Okay, the premise of now you got a bunch of mutant fanboys that are cosplaying as their favorite mutants, sort of. But that's pretty much it. They might as well go back to and they're going to make this about like the Krakoan medicine stuff. And honestly, they might as well just use mutant growth hormone. At least whenever they did that, like MGH back in the 2000s, at least it was interesting. You got characters that were outside of the X-Men that were using it, like Patriot. From Young Avengers, he got his powers from using mutant growth hormone. And because he was just a normal dude. No, this is a friggin' disaster that is a waste of time and money, and it's just going to sit idly on a shelf and rot the same way that the upcoming, honestly, even X Factor has a better chance of being successful than this. Pele, what do you think on this?
Well, we talked about that earlier. I was being nice and saying I was cautiously optimistic because there are some displaced kind of New Mutants fans who want this type of content. And I'm not just going to crap on it out, completely like I did the New Warriors rather, but it just looks bad. It does. And I don't think that a good artist is really going to be enough to elevate it to, must read status for very many people. So,
it looks like we lost Dan for a minute. I guess he'll have to wait until Wes comes back to let him back into the stream. I don't have access to do that. So Dan, if you're listening, all right, there we are.
Hey, I'm back.
Welcome back.
Sorry, you flew away when I was gone.
Sorry, guys.
No, I figured we'd have to wait for Wes to come back to bring Dan back in. So yeah, no, this is like this whole. I don't understand this fascination that modern Marvel has with trying to appeal and be like current year to these Zoomer kids.
They're desperately trying to attract the audience that does not want to buy comics. They just want to push their ideology on comics, but they don't want to buy the comics. So it's and those people, they're not customers, they're activists. You have to accept that. That is not who you sell your comics to. They're not going to buy the comics. They just want to make sure that the comics have the content that they want. So, it's best just to kind of, forget that they exist, go about your business and make comics for the customers you already have.
Well, yeah, they want the propaganda pamphlets to exist. They're just not going to read them.
Right.
Because they already agree with it. Why bother reading a thing that I already agree with?
Yep.
Well, there's that. Plus, there is a generational thing with a lot of these, I guess Generation Z kids, where they're more interested in experience than in possessions. So getting them to buy products is hard.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're talking about people. You're talking about a group of people who you could probably like put all their personal possessions in one fruit crate, and that that's all that they own. So getting them to actually buy something month in and month out is damn near impossible.
Well, I mean, but look at it in terms of value, guys. For what a comic costs now, let's say a comic costs $4. That's more than half of what it costs for me to get a Netflix or a Disney Plus account that's going to give me thousands of hours of high quality streaming entertainment. The price performance ratio between a comic book and what digital media, the gulf has never been larger. It's insanity how much you have to spend in comparison one for the other.
And you also
how much
have,
is Disney Plus now?
I mean, mobile gaming that's
$6, I think,
hours of entertainment. And it's free. You don't have to pay for anything. You can pay, for upgrades and stuff like that. So you're competing with a large amount of information or entertainment that's virtually free or almost nothing when you think about Netflix and Amazon and things of that nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've actually heard rumors. Some of the rumors that I've heard over the last year or so that Marvel is looking at is putting out their own type of Kindle-like device that would be like a color e-paper reader. Now the color e-paper e-ink looks pretty decent. Putting out a color e-ink reader and selling subscription services through it like a Kindle. You'd buy the reader for $100, and then you'd get like a free amount of comics for 6 months. And
that's their wet dream for sure. But
that's their wet dream, and it'd be the death of comic book stores for sure.
It'll be I mean, that already exists, right? You can do that today. I can subscribe to Marvel Comics today and read it on an iPad. Yeah. It's just an inferior experience in so many ways.
It is.
It's really a series of trade-offs. For regular books, I get it. Electronic book, Kindles make sense because it's like there's not that big of a gulf between reading text on a tablet and reading it in a book. But then I go like, man, there's so many trade-offs people don't think about. Like when you buy an electronic book, you don't own anything. You can't resell that thing. Amazon could take it away from you at any moment. You're essentially renting month by month the right to read your own books.
Mm-hmm. You are.
So it's an inferior experience. I also think technologically, you can't get a double page spread. It's all glossy, different paper stocks. The quality of a paper, the feel of a book in your hand is legitimate when reading comics. Like it is an inferior experience to read it.
Now, I was telling the other aficionados, there is an almost perfect digital device for reading comics, but nobody wants to spend, very few people, except for me, I'm stupid, wants to spend $1,000 for an iPad Pro, 13-inch iPad Pro. I'll tell you what, that is an experience because you've got the pen, you can do annotations on it, you can jump from comic to comic so easily, it's so fast. It is an amazing device for reading comics. The downside, the price is the price.
Mm-hmm.
$1,000. Do comics mean that much to you that you'd pay $1,000 to get an e-reader? And most people, vast majority, 99% of people, no, hell no, that's ridiculous. So,
well, it's also crazy. I have a Comixology Unlimited, subscription because I'm overseas. It's hard for me to get my hands on back stock and stuff like that. But reading that on my tablet, which I don't mind reading comics on my tablet, absolutely sucks compared to getting a PDF, from a $5, crowdfunded comic. The PDF is better to read. I'd rather pinch and expand the double page spread when I have to, and then go back than going through their zooming thing because it doesn't work very well. It's clunky. Yeah. I hate it.
And that's not how you read. That's not how you read a comic. That's not how your eye reads comics, right? We don't zoom in on a panel and go in. You take it in as a piece and as a piece at a time. Right. The theory of how it's reading, it's not that it's bad. Things can change and whatever, but it is not the same. And especially if you're guys, you have to have training to read comics. People don't like, we take it for granted. Oh, comic, it's the easiest thing in the world to read. You give it to a person who wasn't raised reading comics, they go like, what order do I read the boxes in? Like, they really sometimes have big problems with reading comics.
Yeah.
So to train, like now we're going to even make it less. We're going to have even less people trained in reading.
Yeah. Manga is a lot easier to read on a device like that because you have, it flows so much more differently than it does like a comic book
per page.
Yeah. Agreed.
So
agreed. And I think that's what's real interesting is that how the technology is going to lead to changes in the medium itself and how the stories are told. Less panels per page, less pages, maybe not pages at all, maybe an infinitely scrolling page. There's so many different options that like we're in the infancy of what can be done.
Yeah, but then are you even reading a comic anymore? You're watching a static cartoon.
Yeah.
I think it's still a comic if you got panels, but can you get anybody to pay for it? Can you pay somebody? Can you get paid on the back end? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Japanese definitely have the market and how to execute it down much better because manga is infinitely more digestible on digital than comic books are right now. It's a lot easier. And they have that great subscription service, with Shonen Jump. That the price on that for the amount of content you get, the Western comics can't even compete with it right now.
You're nailing it, Wes. Exactly right. It's these different formats and packaging, not to mention the breadth of genres, of course, in Japan, right? Like they got comics for my mom. They got comics for my dad. They got comics for businessmen. They got comics for sports fans. They got comics for everybody. We don't. We do, but they're not in comic shops most of the time. You got to go to a bookstore. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, that might be the market. I feel like if comic stores go away, the only place that's going to pick up the mantle of carrying comics is it's going to be traditional bookstores. They're the only ones who have the physical presence and the distribution setup and everything else to even hope to be it. But they're not going to be willing to handle the weekly load of subscription comics and all that stuff. Like most of them probably won't be able to do that.
No, plus the fact that you essentially there becomes no back issue market. Because those companies aren't going to sit on, they're not going to accept non-returnable product.
So you think the comic book will become the used record store?
Yeah. There's a big chance of that.
Yeah, and the if the bookstores end up kind of taking up that mantle, either books become returnable or the discount would have to be so severe that they can afford to then, a month later, dump them on the local comic shop that becomes essentially the used record store into their back issue bin.
Mm-hmm. That's where the Walmart experiment that DC did, I thought was, I don't know that they executed it just right, but it's interesting. The package that they were able to offer and the mix of comics with reprints and some new stuff put together at a really good price point. That might be where we need to go for comics.
But except for the fact that I still don't think it's a good price point. I don't think $5 is a price point where you convert non-readers into readers.
Yeah, but with 100 pages?
Doesn't matter. It's about the dollar price on the cover if you don't already read comic books. You're not going to give something a shot that you don't already currently enjoy for $5, no matter how much volume you get.
Yeah, at $5 for a 100-page thing though in this market for printed matter, like a magazines these days, like a regular magazine on the shelves is really expensive.
And how many new people started reading Cosmo or it's still the same 40-year-old women that were reading it 20 years ago. The same problem with comic books. It's still the same.
They're 60-year-old women
fine.
now.
Okay, fine. But
they're still trying to find their vaginas.
And where the G spot is. And whatever. But my point is, you're not converting, and magazines are having the same problem that comics are. They're not converting non-readers into readers.
You're right about that for sure.
And that's the problem. All they are doing at $5 is cannibalizing their existing market. They're bleeding. They're taking an extra $5 out of the existing customer pool, but they're not converting non-readers. 100 pages doesn't matter worth a damn to somebody that doesn't read comics. $5 does. If they enjoy it. If
I were a kid, though, and I watched the Flash TV show, I'd be pretty stoked to get like a 100-page Flash comic that had a bunch of cool Flash stories in it. I would think I would be. I don't know, $5 in our day and age to you and me. $5, like back, I used to scrape up. Comics used to be 65 cents each, and after a week they marked them down to 50 cents each. But then again, everything was cheaper back then, right? So nowadays, what does $5 get you? You can't even get a hot dog and a soda for $5 these days.
Well, also it's the real estate they were in Walmart. It wasn't like they were at the checkout aisle or they were in the toys section or they were near the candy. They were in like the specialty section where the as seen on TV crap is that nobody can go back there for, you know?
At the bottom, on the bottom shelf too, like over in the corner. If you're lucky, you can find them.
That choice real estate costs money. It costs a lot of money to get in there. And there's competition.
Yeah, that's
there's
right.
I mean, I'll tell you what, stores, mine included, we really look at that dollar per square foot rating. And that's a serious thing. You know, I don't want to put anything that's readily available as far as the view of the customer base, unless from my customer base, unless it's got a pretty good dollar per square foot projection. So
yeah, right. And Walmart is ruthless about those type of calculations, right? That's what their entire business is built upon, is knowing where to put stuff and move incredibly large amounts of product. More than the direct market could ever dream of trying. But I guarantee you they had full returnability. They're not eating a dime of any unsold comics.
Well, here's the thing, though. The Walmart comics, they don't have to worry about returnability. Those things sell like hotcakes. And my cousin is the manager of Walmart.
Yeah.
My local Walmart. And they put the comics, you know, the Marvel and DC specials and stuff like that. And they put those in the same place they put the Magic cards, the baseball cards, stuff like that, the special release stuff, Walmart only stuff. And it is in prime location next to the registers. Smart. And she's like, it sells. This stuff sells. It's unbelievable.
I really believe that's the future. Like, that's the only way is we got to get kids hooked on comics today. And luckily it's happening, but it's happening in the bookstores too. Raina Telgemeier. We got comics for like 6-year-old girls now for the first time that are New York Times bestsellers, you know, and they're amazingly great comics too, by the way.
I still don't consider those comics. They're no different than Calvin and Hobbes or kids' picture books. No, I mean, like you're targeting the same audience.
Well, they're not comics.
They're great comics. Raina Telgemeier is like a world-class cartoonist now at this point. I read it and I cried. It's an amazing book. If you read her latest book, Smile, it will make you cry. Like Guts.
I don't think that Doc's cried since he's like 2. He's not a crier.
I have a little girl. I have 2 little girls. I have a 4-year-old and a 1-year-old, right? And I look and my 4-year-old girl who can't read, she fell asleep with the Raina Telgemeier book, just like looking at it and loving it. To see a little girl, to see herself reflected in comics is a magical, amazing thing. And that's where that's why I'm not afraid for the medium of comics at all. It's the industry of comics and the comic book stores that I grew up in, working in and shopping at and owning. Like that culture, I don't know how much longer it's going to survive, but that's retail comics and retail culture in general, not just comics. It's all kind of changing. Absolutely.
But yeah, I'm with you. I have a 4-year-old and a 10-month-old, so I'm trying to teach my son how to read through comics. And there are actually some good DC books. I believe it's Clark Kent of Smallville or something like that, and it's just, you know, Superman is like a 10-year-old or something like that, and he loves it. He can see the whole story. He even doesn't really even need the words to get everything, but that was a great introductory. But the price on that thing is insane. It's like $7. It's like,
yeah. I really lament
to destroy it.
I seriously lament them discontinuing Super Sons. I'll say it every single week until DC perhaps gets the hint and brings it back, because that comic was such a great introduction to comics for the 7 to 8 year old crowd. It brought them in, and it kept them, and it hooked them. And I miss it because I enjoyed reading it. It was a really, really great read. And I just still can't believe they screwed that up. They let Bendis just completely torch that series.
Well, if you look at the ads in DC Comics right now, they're all for young adult oriented trade paperbacks going into that's it. It's clear that's the direction that they're moving. They're pivoting into a scholastic direction.
And they let Bendis torch the best book they had.
No one reading those books is going to want to read that. Like, I look at that stuff, and
it's crazy.
Like I said, Clark Kent of Smallville was great. I was like, yeah, I'll get that for my son. But that crap version they had of Super Sons, I was like, absolutely not. I will get him the real Super Sons. He ain't reading that. He's certainly not reading this Beast Boy book. That looks really stupid. Like, you're targeting the wrong audience. Those advertisements need to be in the Rain to Telmeyer book.
That's what I mean. I think the books are good. The ad placement is confusing too, right? Like, yeah, it doesn't. It's so jarring.
I you know what? I disagree with Pele. I mean, on the Walmart thing, because and maybe it's a regional thing, but like I said in the chat, that aisle, that Magic the Gathering baseball cards, etc. aisle, it's a disorganized ghost town at every Walmart in anywhere around me.
It's different. It's definitely regionally different.
Because ours is, she has like there's one girl that I watch that she kind of watches the self-checkout aisle, and she also goes through and straightens out that aisle because it gets hammered by kids all day long.
Yeah, but I guess, and the other problem is let's look at it honestly, that the shelf setup, just the type of shelves that they use at mass retailer stores are not, congruent with front-facing product that has to stand up and look at you like comic books.
She uses magazine racks to put the comics in. So she actually takes them out of that cardboard holder thing, and she puts them in racks. So
no, I get that, but that's an individual store choice.
Yeah,
the design for Walmart's plan for how to do it, and the fact that the publishers are perfectly okay with it. You have front-facing product that is thin and needs to stand up and have natural light shining on it,
right?
And you're putting it in dark, deep shelves where you would stack things.
Yeah, in those cardboard things, they literally
take some photos and show you that.
I'd like to. Yeah,
no, it's interesting because that's interesting because Walmart is like that. Like the manager, like a good manager at a Walmart has some say over how things get merchandised and how things are done. Just like at comic book stores, you can display your comics in a crappy way or in a really great way, and it's going to make a big difference on the public perception and everything else. I think you're right, Doc, that like there's going to be exceptions to the rule, but the general plan for how to market them and sell them and put them in stores is flawed.
Yeah. Well, come to think of it, I'm thinking also of in Farragut, there's a Walmart that I also occasionally go to, and it is absolute shit for buying comics or buying anything there, because that aisle is like shoved all the way into the corner.
Yeah.
Nobody goes over there. All the comics were like on the opposite side away from the doors, so you'd never see them. So yeah, there's going to be very, very different environments. So, yeah,
it's weird to say, but that some Walmart managers like care and some care less, right?
Yeah.
Like some might have kids or actually be into comics or toys, and so have a little more care about that section. And the other ones are like, I'm just moving ham hocks over in groceries. That's like there's there's never going to be specialty love in Walmart, but there's going to be mass appeal.
there's a Detective Comics that came out like last year, at the beginning of last year, that came incredibly hot. It sold for right now they're selling for like $150, $200 a copy. And it was a very special release that had a very limited print run on it. And I went 6 months after that comic was released, went to that Walmart in Farragut, and I was like, I wonder which ones they have. I looked on the opposite side where they had them buried, and they had an entire stack of them sitting there inside that cardboard holder, pushed all the way back on the bottom shelf.
Nice.
Of that. And I was like, oh, I'm buying these. Grabbed all of them out of there and liberated them from that shop. And I sold them to my customers a very deep discounted rate because I knew that they weren't going to be able to find it anywhere else. But yeah, it's very, very flavor. It's very area centric, and there's going to be different flavors at different places.
Yeah, even store to store. And then do they have competition in that area? Are there comic stores in that region or whatever else? Because like for some kids, man, in some areas of the country, like Walmart now is like the only place for something fun. There's no Toys R Us even for them anymore. It's like we got Walmart or Target, and that's about it. And that's
we have so few. 10 years ago, we had about 20 local game shops in Knoxville. Now, as far as just LGS, the local game stores, now we have 4, and 3 of them are like bleeding out.
Yeah,
so,
you're lucky to have that even.
And so the kids now are just, there's a Subway over there at the Walmart. They just go buy their Magic cards there at Walmart and go play Magic at Subway. And they do the same thing with their comics. They just buy the comics and they go read them at the cafe or Subway. And it's like, that's where it's going now, and it's sad.
I've long been of the opinion that Walmart and Target and places like that are not the right place to target new and non-readers. It's 7-Eleven and Kogo's and Sheetz and Wawa and BP and and Speedway. Getting into those places, if they can have that rack of sunglasses that's taking up space on the floor, I guarantee they do much better sales on the comic books, because you're not concerned about, you're marginally concerned about condition, but this isn't about, buying collectors comics. Mm-hmm. This is for turning non-readers into readers. And every kid is into a gas station or convenience store, either with their mom, especially with how many of them have food these days, kind of like, like Sheetz and Wawa and Speedway. They have like a full, back in the day, it was like Woolworth with their lunch counter. Now it's, the made to go when you order it stuff. And they have a multitude of floor space. Putting a spinner rack in there does not take up a lot of space. Mm-hmm. And, okay, if the books aren't in perfect shape, it's not a big deal, because you're worried about getting kids to read them, and you put them on the way to the checkout counter after they got their Slurpee and their MTO from Sheetz and maybe a candy bar, and they go, I like that Avengers movie. Oh, there's an Avengers comic. I'll give it a shot for $1.50.
Yeah.
That's where you're gonna convert non-readers into readers.
That's
one of my favorite places.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. Please go ahead.
I was just going to say, one of my favorite places to go to is when I spent the summers in Miami. I'd go, and when I went to go visit family there, and they had the most awesome little bodegas down there where you could get like you get a Cuban sandwich, everything like that. And they had spinner racks, just huge numbers of spinner racks of comics and puzzle books and stuff like that. And that was back when comics, I guess I was about 10 years old, and comics were still 50, 60 cents, and I'd grab 4 or 5 comics and sit there and just eat my stuff and read, being very careful because I was nerdy that way. But, and that was awesome. I did that every single time I went to those little shops, and everybody else did too. And that's just gone now. So,
yeah. They made that calculation a long time ago. You nailed it with the sunglasses thing, Doc. they literally go, I can put this rack of sunglasses here. I don't have to touch it all year long. I just got to put more glasses on it as it sells. And it's going to make me more money per square foot than this rack of comics that I have to rotate and the kids are tearing. I got to return and I got to process. And that's the calculation that those store chains and stores made. And then comics pulling out a newsstand distribution for returnability, that seals the deal, because without returnability, those chains will never, ever, ever carry a comic.
It actually reminds me, I need to check up on the Pilot Supercenter stores, the little gas station, the gas stations, the travel centers. I was negotiating with Pilot on behalf of Peter Samedi to get Pilot, on board with carrying, the alternate comics. And that reminds me, I need to catch up with that, because they were gung ho about it. It's just, I think that they were balking at the cover price. Even for Alterna, they were balking at the cover price. They were like, well, we're thinking about something like one of our $1.50 puzzle books. So, it's as long as the price is attractive, those places will go for that. So
yeah, because especially with non-readers, you need to make it impulse buy.
Yeah, you do. You have to.
Yeah, and like you're saying, the value difference between you'll get $5 is going to get you a streaming deal. That's going to give you a month of entertainment compared to one comic book. It's for a family with kids pinching their pennies and dollars. It's just that's the reality of it. Comics are not a good value.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. When I'm standing in the aisle, my kid brings me something. He's, I want this. I look at it. I'm like, $5. Get out of here. Go find something realistic.
I'll buy my kid any book she brings to me. My heart melts, and I'm gonna buy it for her, because we need readers in this world, man. And we're not gonna have them unless we're gonna have to pony up the dough, guys, for our kids, for sure.
I'll tell you, I feel the same way. When I was that age, in my early, 7, 8, 10 years old, if I brought my dad a book, anything to read like that, I didn't have to ask twice. It was just like, okay, bring it here. We're getting it, because they really made it a priority for us as far as reading is concerned. And I just don't see that outside of the parents that bring their kids to the comic shops. I just don't see it.
So there's a good me books. He brings me candy and toys. Like, nah. Find a cheaper toy.
the culture's out there of reading, but man, the culture of video games is so strong, and streaming video and the internet is so compelling and so ever present and cheap.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough road to hoe, man. We gotta have to. That's why the only way that comics will survive is upping the quality of the comics. Anything that focuses on anything else, frankly, cover price and placement and counter dumps and whatever, that can help to this degree. But give me a superstar, awesome comic book written and drawn by great people, and that can light the world on fire. It will.
Well, what today's, the way that they're writing comics, a lot of them are written as 5 to 7 issue stories. Like, it would have to change, because you can't have an impulse buy where you go in there and you're like, what is going on here? Who are these characters? I don't understand what's happening. You have to go back to the Claremont style where, yes, you can write a 10-issue story arc, but it's 10 little stories that all have a beginning and an end. And when you finish that, you're like, what? There was something in there that they mentioned. Let me go back and figure out what it is. Because if you go in the middle of, everyone likes Donny Cates nowadays. Go in there and grab Thor #4 and see if you can figure out what's going on right there.
Exactly.
That comic book.
Exactly. Clueless. Even if you read the heavy duty text pieces they're now including to give you all this additional context, it's still a convoluted mess. I don't understand what's going on in a lot of comics.
Yeah, and they would have to change, but that defeats their right for the trade.
You just need to make those books for trades to begin with. Make those graphic novels and actually make the less comics that are actually serialized.
There's a combination. There's guys that walk that line, like you said, the Claremont Burn Run, the old way of things, that old way of storytelling. More recent years, maybe Bone. I don't know. That's not even recent. That's still 20 years ago. But like, those were individual issues. You could pick up any individual issue of Bone kind of and give it to a kid, and they would read it and they could enjoy it and whatever. but then there's this longer story arc going on in the background and individual arcs and stuff like that. That's why I like what Hickman is doing with X-Men right now. I feel like he is not writing those for the trade. They are they will work as a trade, but they read well as individual issues. Whether you like the stupid stories in each issue or not, that's one thing. But like the format that he's doing is a little bit denser, less decompressed, more done in one. I think that's the way for now.
So shockingly, for Christmas, I gave one of my wife's friends, she had a son that's I believe he was 8 or 9, and so I got him 4 issues of Guardians of the Galaxy. It was 4 continuous issues of Donny Cates' run. And then I also gave him the full collection of Alterna Comics Adam Rec. It's something he would have never heard of, and his mom said he immediately after he read them all, he put the Guardians of the Galaxy to the side, and he only reads the Adam Rec story over and over and over now.
Oh wow!
It was just better for consumption for him. It was like the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff was too far above his head.
Yeah, and
but the alternate book he could understand.
Yeah, and Alterna has and that's the one thing I love about Peter.
I do too.
He manages to find these products that are great for non-reader kids that are into the idea of comics without ever being into comics, and then he puts together he finds titles that fit just so well for all age groups, but they're not kids books. They're just they appeal to everyone, including their kids.
That's
rare. Because, Guardians of the Galaxy, you got them on backpacks. Kids wear them on shirts. You got the big movies coming out. I was like, oh, he's gonna love these. It's all like, no, he don't read those. He reads those Adam Rec stories. He loves that story. I was like, that is shocking. But they're not there about it. I was like, yeah, that's really confusing. If you hadn't been reading Guardians of the Galaxy for like 2 or 3 years, like you wouldn't even know where any of this came from.
Yeah, right. That Marvel missed so many years of like, man, you've got these smash movies, the biggest possible advertisement you could ever hope to have for your comics, and you're going to change your entire lineup of characters to completely not resemble what's going on in the $1 billion smash movies. Does it take a genius? Am I a marketing genius that I know that it's not a good idea? I don't think I am.
No. It's the one hand not knowing what the other's doing, and it's just.
I mean, it's one thing to say we want to try new things, we want to go in a new direction, great, but to simultaneously axe all of your most popular and recognizable characters at the height of their mainstream popularity has got to be one of the stupidest things I could ever imagine doing.
It's mind-boggling, isn't it? I mean, if I put, I can put the Doctor Strange, or I can put any of the other movies, the MCU movies, which are extremely popular in the shop. People just stop and watch them for like hours. And those characters don't exist in that form in the comics.
Right. And
it's just like, well, where's Iron Man? Well, Iron Man's dead. At the time, it was like, well, Iron Man's dead. What? And the guy just turns around looking.
Yeah, the teenage girl is taking over for him for the next years.
Yeah, we've got this girl, this 13-year-old girl of color, that built an Iron Man suit in her garage. Here, check that out instead. No.
And which could have been great as a comic coming out with Iron Man, a backup character in Iron Man, or so many other opportunities.
Yeah.
A kid only, a young adult's graphic novel aimed at that audience. Great idea, guys.
Yeah,
but don't know your existing fans and any possible outreach fans you're going to get. I still can't believe it happened.
Yeah, it blew my mind. It blew my mind because none of the characters existed in that way. The only thing that they did was even close to that was reuniting the Guardians of the Galaxy in that form. They did try at least. I think that was incidental, though. I think it was a complete accident. So
it's weird because like my son is the world's biggest Transformers fan. He loves Bumblebee more than anything in this world, and I can't buy him a Transformers comic book right now. I want to get him Transformers and Transformers Galaxies. They're written for 30-year-olds.
Yep. Yeah.
It's like these are toys, man. What are you doing?
Yeah, in the comments, Stan Hooper said, "If you love Chris Evans, you'll love Hydra Cap."
Yeah, right.
Hail Hydra.
Right?
The lack of synergy is mind-boggling.
And now he's a communist. So it's like what?
Anti-synergy. Hey, did you love that thing that you just saw? Here's the exact opposite of it.
Yeah, it's like here's this wonderful patriotic Cap that's in the movies and apple pie America, and then you go read the comic, you're like, oh God, he's a communist. What? He hates America? What? I don't understand.
There's plenty of room for that kind of ambiguity, I think, in a Captain America comic to play around with those ideas and themes and stuff. But you don't just to completely change the familiar, the one hope you have of bringing in somebody from the mainstream outside of a comic book store. And it's a roaring success. It's not like it's some niche art film. We're talking about some of the biggest films of all time and of the past decade, and they just dropped the ball on capitalizing on that for comics.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys, we basically filled up our time. We're at an hour and 40 minutes. We went a little off topic, but I thought it was a good conversation. I had a lot of fun. It's time to recommend some comic books. Doc, what do you recommend this week?
I think I picked up everything from Alterna that came out this week. I didn't get a chance to read it.
Good man.
And X-Force was weird.
Yeah.
I'm really, really tired of plants.
I'm
really tired of hearing about plants. Did Jonathan Hickman just go through like a horticulture phase where he's like, I love gardening. Let's make a superhero comic about gardening. Look at all this invasive species of weeds in my garden. How do I get rid of them? How do I make them come back? Dude, just give me the friggin' X-Men, man.
What about mulching?
Yeah. How does mulching help? How does pollen? Man, look, but you know what? And I know that there's 5 or 6 friggin' X books coming out this week, but I don't think I'm going to be able to get them because my local shop that has my pull list that all those books are on we're all under life sustaining businesses are shut down.
Oh man, I've heard what's going on in Pennsylvania. It's scary.
Yeah,
Philadelphia area.
Yeah, it ain't gonna last more than a couple of weeks. All of us Yinzers got guns.
Good for you.
So it won't last that long. But
are you in Pennsylvania?
Yeah, I'm in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'm from Pittsburgh.
Okay. All right, another Yinzer. We got a lot of Yinzers around.
All right, Doc, it's the recommendations, buddy. Come on.
So I don't know what X books are coming out, and I can't buy them. So you guys go and do it, I guess.
All right. Dark Admiral March Harrell's recommending Gods and Gears. Suba True is recommending Ronan Island Giant Days MPR. Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Mega Tokyo Umbrella Academy. And those are what he's recommending while he's in California. Black Cat's recommending Batman Curse of the White Knight issue 8, which will be the finale of that series for next week. Mango Bet is recommending Undone by Blood number 2. Okay, there Tevye is recommending Invincible. Dan, what are you recommending this week?
Oh man, coming out this week. Well, in general, right now, comic wise, what I'm recommending is Batman's Grave. I don't hear anybody talking about Batman's Grave. Warren Ellis, Brian Hitch. That is top notch. That to me is the best Batman comic on the shelves right now. Ginseng Roots by Craig Thompson. What? Alternative comics at its finest, and a history of the plant ginseng and how it's grown in Wisconsin. It is a wonderful book, and it's about Craig Thompson. He wrote Blankets and BB and other great graphic novels. It is a fantastic comic book. And Usagi Yojimbo, the new color series by Stan Sakai.
Hell yes.
He is back and hitting he's actually re-examining themes in the character. Like Usagi is starting to wonder, is his quest at an end? Has he fulfilled his mission? The color makes it beautiful. I think they should recolorize all the old stuff. That's a book that is a crossover monster book that brings in new people to make comics. And I've converted tons of people into comics readers with Usagi. So those are my picks right now.
I agree. That one's one of the easiest comics I've ever read to my son. He loved it. He gets it. So
a comic that you can recommend for kids, yes. And then but yet there's stabbing and decapitations in every issue.
Joy.
Need some good murder for our children.
William Medina is recommending The Plunge, Batman 91, Something is Killing the Children, 6 in Hotel. Where we going? Paul Diggs Comics is recommending Booster Gold and Wonder Woman by George Perez. Yule Carter is saying, read your read pile, all that, that long box or that short box that you got that are full of comics that you haven't been able to touch because we all have time right now. Dominic is recommending X-Force number 9, Gods and Gears, Midnight Mystery, Flash 751, Resurrection Man by Dan Abnett, and the latest chapter of The Promised Neverland. Promised Neverland is a beautiful manga. I love that. That is so weird. You could never release that in America. Well, you can never make it in America. You can release it here. And all right, Pele, what are you recommending at the shop?
Okay, I got for Marvel, I'm recommending Morbius. It's actually gotten to be pretty decent. I've it kind of started off a little weak, but it's gearing up now. I've enjoying it. I used to love Morbius back in the 90s, back when they did the Midnight Suns era, and I really enjoyed it then. And it seems to be getting good again. Also, Alterna, Blood Realm Volume 3, number 1 just came out. Pick it up. It's $1.50, best $1.50 that you're going to spend on comics probably this month. It's fantastic. I've followed it ever since the volume 1, and I've really enjoyed it. Also, keep looking out for the dollar books and the True Believers. Always buy those. I mean, they're great. They're great reads for $1. There's nothing out there for $1 that you can buy that's that good. Yeah, that's it for the week.
Also, mentioning Robert Geronimo and Blood Realm. If you can't get your comic book fixed because your comic shops are closed down and you're having trouble getting your hands on them, go to the Alterna website, order some comic books from there. Peter Cimetti has been online saying, hey, the online direct orders are the only thing that are keeping them up right now because of all the instability going on. So support the comic industry the way that you can. If you don't have the money or means to do that, then spread the word out the best you can. But if you're able to support it financially, definitely try to do that the best you can because there's a lot of uncertainty right now. As far as comics go, I am recommending Bang number 2 from Matt Kent. It was absolutely phenomenal. I couldn't believe it. I read the first first issue. I liked it, but this one is like an homage to Die Hard, and it was absolutely hilarious. It was full of action and all kinds of great stuff. It was one of the best comics I've read in a long time. And the only other comic I'm really recommending this week is Justice League 43. It was the final issue of the Eradicator storyline from Robert Venditti. I believe Doug Mankey finally comes back on the art. He did the very first issue of Venditti's run. We know that's going to be a very short run. He's moved on to his dream project. That first story arc was actually pretty good. We got anything else from the panel before we sign off?
Be patient. Be calm. Be relaxed. Don't freak out.
That's my pick of the week. Giant size. All of those new giant size X-Men that are coming out look like the best books coming down the pike from Marvel.
Nightcrawler, I'm going to be all over it.
Yeah, it looks great. And keep your families close and safe and read comics. Sit home and read comics, man. It's a nerd's paradise out there.
Yeah, you got a couple of weeks off now. Get caught up on that box of, like me, you got a long box sitting over here that you need to get to. So
big time.
I'm gonna recommend that if you don't have a pull list at your local shop, you could either try to contact them and see about whether or not they will mail your books to you, if they even can, or if they're still doing curbside pickup. Check with your local shop. Give them a call. Worst that happens is they say no.
Mm-hmm.
And if not, then you decide whether or not to wait until they are back open, or if you want to order from, some place like Midtown or, Lone Star, somebody that might still be operating.
All right. Well,
And if you're gonna cancel, though, if you are having financial problems, cancel early. Don't make your comics sit in a box and them to have to pay for it down the line. That's really important.
Make sure to call. Just call. Simple phone call. That way, at least the store knows to stop pulling your books.
Exactly, and they will understand.
Yeah.
All right. Be kind to each other. Read comic books. Salamat Po. I'm out. We had a lot of fun today.